curious, how does health education, and I'm not even going down the path of sexual health education, get addressed within that community with those Friday sessions? Is it something that comes up as an issue or a priority when somebody's newly arrived or if somebody's established in the community, or is that left to others?
It could be discussed with Sheikh Isa, who was trying to contact Sheikh Isa. Yeah. It can be discussed in some communities with sheikhs that are coming from an African background. But personally, I haven't heard anything. Like, I go regularly to Friday sermons in Preston. We're mainly Arab-speaking community, and it's never ever been discussed. Look, sometimes it comes up with refocusing on sexual behavior and abstinence and fidelity and all of these things. It comes up regularly, but with a focus on we have a problem and we need to tackle it. Not much. They leave it to, I think, to the wider community to address it.
I thought I might just jump in here as well, just in terms of my thoughts in regard to exactly what spiritual leaders, that's us to a certain extent, can do. And Lena made a good point about getting the community leaders involved as well. But from my perspective, I'm not too sure we can wait in regards to them getting involved. I mean, it always sort of seems in terms of HIV and AIDS that government and community often seems to come in the tail end, of people who are making movements towards these sorts of things, historically speaking. So for myself, I'd be looking at taking a page out of Mark's book and actually going off to temples and turning around and saying to you, look, I've got important things to say about this that affects your community and my community, and that's going to take a certain level of fearlessness in order to be able to do that, to step onto someone else's turf and say, I'm going to address something that you're not. So, but bear with me because it's in the benefit of all of us here. So, that's my sort of take in terms of what we can do. Get out there and do it. Is more what I'm sort of thinking. And I'm pretty sure that with support from organisations like this can help provide us with information that I've been provided with today, that we can get the support from our other spiritual leaders to do just that.
It is something. It's something that I'm quite passionate about. Is letting people know that they are welcome. But I just feel here in Melbourne we've been given a grand opportunity this year with the International AIDS Conference. But not just the conference, but the Global Village. And I'm working on all sorts of ways within my own church of letting people know that that Global Village is there and trying to work out how to get groups of people to come in during the day and visit that village and learn there. So I can only recommend that to our faith groups, and for me the Global Village is about the ordinary people, and if we've got ordinary people in our faith communities talking about these things and going to such things, then that is a way that we get the conversation going.
Elaborate a little bit about the Global Village, please.
Elaborate on the Global Village. I've been lucky to have been at previous international conferences. It's a space where there are speakers from the conference, there are various stalls, would perhaps be the best way, from both representing groups like Indigenous groups, faith groups, people living with HIV, all sorts of groups, but also little projects that also bring some of their wares and talk there. So it's a marketplace.
I guess the key thing is
Yeah.
it's free this year
Yeah.
to be part of the conference where you'd have to pay registration. But for the first time ever, they're actually offering that space up to the general public experiences.
That's come.
Yeah. So I think we've got a job of really encouraging people to just come.
And it's certainly put HIV/AIDS back on the agenda, hasn't it? I mean, I don't think it's, from the faith community's point of view, well, certainly from the Christian faith community's point of view, I don't think it's ever entirely disappeared, but certainly we had an Anglican AIDS ministry back in the 80s and 90s, and that just sort of, got lost in funding to do other things. And maybe some of what it's done is to actually put funding into cult communities, like particularly sub-Saharan African refugees in Australia at the present moment. But the discussion hasn't entirely gone away. It's just sort of dipped below the official surface. So, when the invitation for this came today, it just dropped into my basket because I'm involved in health. Well, no one else in the Anglican Church is involved in health ministry at any kind of official level, so it comes into my basket. What do I know about AIDS? Actually haven't been involved in any ministry with AIDS specifically, but we all know it's there, and it feels to me like once Fairfield Hospital was closed, it kind of I don't know. We've been working amongst how do we call them? The opposite to called Anglo communities, or the Anglo community. But yeah, we've got a great opportunity because the conference has kind of raised the whole awareness again. Yeah.
It's good. I also make a suggestion that perhaps when you ask a question, it's good just to say where you're from, so that community. I mean, we know where you're coming from. It's good for the speakers just to know which organization you're working for. Thank you. Please.
Hi, thanks everyone. It's really good to hear what you've been saying this morning. I'm Chris Limore. I'm a doctor at the Monash Health in Dandenong Hospital, the refugee clinic there, and had some involvement with a FAO as well in the past and ongoing. So my question is, approaching faith leaders on the topic of HIV, if I sort of rocked up to your door of church, mosque, temple or whatever and said I'd like to have a discussion about HIV in relation to your faith community, what would be going through your mind at that time?
Let's go for it. Absolutely. And I think our Archbishop would say the same thing.
Especially with what I heard today, coming to Islamic Council Victoria, it's a head body that we've got like 50, 60 other societies with us. So, definitely we can organise a meeting with the other societies to really tackle it and discuss it and, hear what you say.
I think from the Buddhist point of view, if you were to go to an individual temple, I wouldn't be too surprised if you were to be met with a little bit of bewilderment, in all honesty. Certainly I don't think, they will reject the idea, but I think one of the important things for us or for me to say as a Buddhist too, is that most of the monks that you find in a temple are actually pulled from the Asian country. They're called out to Australia by a community, and then they're installed and they're supported by that community. And each of those communities are incredibly cultural. They're like little pockets of Vietnam or little pockets of Burma or something like that. And you'll often find that sometimes the monastics don't speak English, so they'll be very welcoming, probably sit you down with a cup of tea and a biscuit while you wait for about an hour and a half until an English speaking person comes along to actually help you. But I think what's probably more helpful there is if you actually approach also, the idea of the peak bodies, the Islamic Council, the Buddhist Council, the other sort of faith positions, and go with it from there, to use their network, so to speak, rather than reinventing the wheel and try and do it your own. But I